welcome all to the November edition of the Sydney Microsoft 365 Meetup. Quick introduction for myself. You might see a new face here. My name is Con. I've been asked by Ken to join to co-facilitate the meetup from now on. So you'll start to see me every second month, where Ken will sort of take every other month. We've also got Ken on the line, so he's not going anywhere. He's here. Say good day, Ken.
Hey, folks. How you doing, Con? How you doing, Rob?
Mate.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Good, thanks.
How's lockdown treating you? It's not really lockdown, is it? I suppose
it's pretty good now. Yeah, I managed to even go to Taronga Zoo on the weekend. So hey, being in Sydney has had its perks for a bit of time, and I think I feel really glad that Melbourne friends and colleagues have been able to actually get out again. So that's been pretty nice.
Yeah.
I was looking at the when I was creating the deck, I wanted to get a picture of the Sydney hustle and bustle, and I'm like, last time I went to Opera Bar was before COVID, and obviously I want to go back there. So I'm like, give me an inspiration, show me the picture there. So hopefully we can go back there very soon for a few drinks. Get out there.
Oh, that sounds good.
Let's get started. So just a quick agenda of today. Today we'll just do a quick welcome and what's new in Microsoft 365. And then our keynote speaker today is Mr. Robert Carrington, who is a practice lead at Engage Square for the business applications practice there. So going to be talking about all things PowerApps and how we best bring PowerApps experiences into Microsoft Teams. And then after that, we're going to have a bit of an optional extended Q&A. So if you want to stay on a bit longer, ask a few more questions, we should be able to answer them as you go. And also, please, if you do have questions all the way through the Rob's speech, please just add stuff into the questions and we can moderate them and respond to them as appropriate. First thing, Microsoft Forms. I think this is a bit of a hidden gem within the Microsoft 365 stack. And some new features that are coming our way this month are polls in Teams. So we're going to be able to, every time we do a new poll, you're going to be able to leverage the Microsoft Forms technologies within Teams itself. The Forms mobile Forms has been added into the Office mobile app. So the Office mobile app is that single app that it contains all the different apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Forms is slowly being ingested into that. So you should be able to get a nice, modern, seamless and integrated experience into that mobile app too. A hidden but secret and gem feature is being able to print a blank form. Probably not so relevant in COVID times, but typically for events, if you needed to do a form, we can print them off as a paper and then submit them via paper if we need to. A number of changes, as always, with Teams. First and foremost, some additional account settings are coming our way. So if you're a person that has a number of accounts, both your work and personal or work or school accounts, there's going to be some more features coming your way to help manage the transition between your work and personal accounts. An interesting one, which is the AI-based noise suppression. So that's going to become a real-time enhancement. So it's going to start to use and leverage AI technologies to help better suppress noise in the background. And it's going to have a nice little control which you can start to adjust whether it's high, medium or low. So we can help with that background noise if you have any funky things happening in the background as you're giving presentations. Third one, out of office. So you can start to configure out of office from your Teams client. I know it's a bit of a pain at the moment for some, but we're going to see those updates come through as well. Another one is the updated layouts for meetings in iOS and Android. They're trying to make it as unified as possible, and you'll start to see a nice little bar, a consistent bar when you're coming in from your mobile device here. So whether you're Android or iOS, it'll be a nice consistent experience. So you should be able to keep track of and join meetings when you're on the go. And lastly but not least is the Fluent UI updates are coming to Teams. So back in March or May, I think earlier this year, Microsoft came back out and said they're going to be introducing this new Fluent UI for all the Microsoft 365 tech stack. And now this month is Teams' turn. So we can see a quick example of what that Fluent UI looks like from a Teams perspective. So expect that to hit your desktop versions and mobile versions over the next month or two. wanted to sort of raise Microsoft information protection because I think this is an often underlooked and overlooked bit of capability within the stack. Obviously, as companies look towards managing their information better, cybersecurity becomes a concern. We're seeing Microsoft do a ton of stuff in the Microsoft information protection space. So this month, we've got a number of new features coming in. So with external, being able to configure external sharing for sensitivity labels in both Teams and SharePoint. So this lets you configure at a very granular level, team site protection policies for external sharing scenarios. So there's some really cool stuff happening there. We've got some data classification analytics coming our way. So being able to get a holistic view around what labels are being applied, how they're being applied, where they're being applied. So we're going to be able to surface a lot more information like that, which will be nice and cool. We also have Microsoft 365 endpoint protection being extended into the Microsoft Windows 10 desktop. So that's when we talk about endpoint data loss prevention. We're going to be able to extend the policies into the desktop now, which is quite cool. So we're going beyond the information stored within the workloads and in the cloud. And an exciting one for me is these trainable classifiers, which will let you start to automatically classify documents and content across the different workloads by leveraging Microsoft's classification labels that they've defined. And you can start to train them. So if you have any custom classification labels based on certain content you might be storing, you can start to automatically classify them. Fun fact is that Microsoft, because this is actually in preview at the moment, they had an offensive language classification label, which they had to deprecate because it was just returning way too many false positives. So we must be seeing a lot of people using colorful language in their content in Office 365, which is quite interesting.
It's interesting that, Con, just as an aside, because I think a lot of organizations forego laying down the foundations for classification. So it's often done retrospectively. And then what happens is you're faced with this huge undertaking to somehow retrospectively classify all your content manually in order to achieve some kind of compliance, and it's a huge problem. So I guess the semantic classification element there can help out and at least start to provide those indicators, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the exciting thing for me is that Microsoft's giving us a starting point. So they've got a whole bunch of classifiers that they've got, which they see use across other organizations. So you can hit the ground running quite well and then train them as you get more comfortable and understand your content a bit more. So definitely a big tick for Microsoft there.
I've got a question of just about the status updates for Microsoft Teams. Is there a status update that gives people the illusion that I'm actually busy working when in fact that I'm having a cup of tea? Have they solved that problem yet? Can I pretend to be online?
Do not disturb.
That for me is probably the number one feature request. I reckon we should encourage all our viewers and attendees to go to the user voice for Teams and log that feature request. I'll be surprised if it has.
I'll take that action, set up the user voice. Okay.
Yeah, please do. Mr. Robert, how are you, my friend?
I am doing, thanks. I'm doing very well, thanks, Con. How are you doing? It sounds like I need another coffee already. I like the slide that you've done for me as well. I haven't seen my face up that close in a while.
I've been having so many customer conversations around the Power Platform. It just seems to be exploding recently. Do you guys get a sense for that as well? And you're having lots of awesome discussions with customers?
Absolutely, and that's where the need to have created a practice around business applications, both inside and outside of the Power Platform, has arisen, because there's been a huge increase in the amount of requests we get from clients to say, hey, we want to create this solution, and this solution. And a lot of them have worked out creating in the Power Platform has been the easiest way to do it from a creation perspective, licensing perspective for a lot of different modern workplace solutions, and also from a handover perspective, from being able to have something that someone could maintain or extend themselves afterwards. And I think that's why I felt so excited about the Power Platform in particular, with what's been happening for it. And today is going to be talking more about that. And I think also talking about where I think Microsoft's focus is going, because it's not going to be we're not going to be talking today about what is the Power Platform. We're going to assume people have heard of what PowerApps is or what Power Automate is, but how it actually is being brought more into teams, and what's the implication for them as business users, as well as anyone who might be from more of a technological side of things on how do I govern this, or what are the limits on this, as well as other people who say, I've already been using this for a while. What's in it for me? What can I get out of this right now? And also, when should I be taking advantage of this? So today is going to be about bringing PowerApps into your team's experience. And in particular, what I'm going to be talking about today is around a lot of the announcements Microsoft's been making over the last couple of months, and around what Project Oakdale is. What does it give you? Does it cost money for me? And what does this mean for me? And what does the future look like for creating apps within the Power Platform and creating apps within teams? But before I get started on that, I actually just wanted to bring us up to speed on how we got here, at least the last 5 years, as a quick summary. So over the last, I would say about 5 years, Microsoft has been really changing how they look at modernizing business applications. So beforehand, for people involved in the Microsoft world, it might be creating things directly in SharePoint, creating things using InfoPath or SharePoint Designer, or your external third-party solutions. And they all were very specific about what they looked at, but they didn't connect all these different services within the Office 365 world and all of these other services outside of the Office 365 world. So Microsoft started to change that and went, well, we need to connect these services together, and also more people should be able to create their own business applications. I think that's the big focus for today is trying to show how these changes are empowering more people to create their own business solutions, or their own solutions for business problems, because they're closer to the actual problem itself and understanding what the requirements are. So about 5 years ago, we had PowerApps and Power Automate, and that was a great start of being able to create some standalone applications for web, and it really focused on the mobile side at the very start, but people are using this in the web quite a lot for their desktops and their laptops and in their browsers. And then what had happened is Microsoft wanted to bring the Power Apps and Power Automate experience into other parts of the Microsoft 365 world. So starting to make integrations into SharePoint by being able to edit the form experience and being able to more easily create flows from SharePoint lists and libraries. And then moving it into the Teams experience, because Teams has been one of Microsoft's, or I would say Microsoft's most successful platform launch I've seen in a very long time, and the amount of adoption they've gotten, let alone before this year, but this year has really skyrocketed it. And what it's meant is there's now an opportunity to bring that experience to people who have gone in through Teams first, and maybe not have gone through your other Office 365 apps first, where we might have gone through the SharePoint side of things, or we might have gone directly from Power Apps and Power Automate. But this is being able to get people who were just getting started with Teams and get them going on the platform. So this started with being able to publish your Power Apps into Teams, so you can add it as a personal tab on the left-hand side of your Teams navigation, or even add in your apps as tabs in your Teams channels. And now where it's extended even more is saying, well, let's not just have being able to embed that experience in there, but let's have the whole creation process able to be done within Microsoft Teams. And what this does is this means there's a large opportunity for people who haven't been creating these apps before to start getting started within Teams with a consistent look and feel, with the security already taking care of them, and having some pre-built applications to know what's possible here. So what Microsoft has done is they introduced Project Oakdalen. This is still the working name. People might have heard of DataFlex. It's the name's still coming. It's still being decided what it will eventually be called. But what Project Oakdale is the capability to enable people who are already within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, within the Teams platform, to create apps, Power Apps, and bots directly in Teams. And that's something I think people forget about, is that second part is this includes Power Virtual Agents. So if you want to create Power Virtual Agents, which is a part of the Power Platform, to have conversational experiences with a bot, or be able to complete certain actions with cards with a bot, there's a license that you can pay for that if you want to use that in the standalone experience. But if you want to use that in your team, that's included in your license, barring maybe a couple of exceptions there. So both Power Apps and bots can be created in there. And what's underpinning the app creation in here is a common data service, which is Microsoft's modern platform for data storage for tables. You might be using SharePoint lists, you might be using SQL databases. This is what the Power Platform uses as its native data storage. It doesn't replace these services. It is more just one that's made for the Power Platform. And what it also means is by being able to have the apps created directly in Teams, you already have some of the Teams integrations built in, which is really good. So you already have the ability, without needing to try and connect up Teams, ability to see what channel you're in, the context that someone's using it in, whether it's in the light or dark mode, a lot of other things that just come included by fact of creating an app within Teams. So that makes it much easier for the Teams experience. And it also means that the UI, or sorry, the controls are going to use the same look and feel as other Teams apps. And this makes it a bit easier to have that consistent look and feel and make it more like an actual Teams first-party app. And probably what we can't forget is there isn't an additional cost for select Microsoft 365 licenses. And I've looked up the articles and the documentation to see what does this really mean. There hasn't been a specific, this is exactly the ones that are included, but I'm going to use my my intuition and assume for enterprise licenses, you would be fine. If it's already included, if Power Apps and Power Automated and Teams is already including your licenses, I would assume this would be included after preview, but there are a couple of ones around government environments and a couple of the EDU A1 licenses that this doesn't include. So in short, this is included within your licensing. You can use this right now and you can take advantage of it. But if we're looking at, well, this is what Project Oakdale is, that's great, but the main focus I want to give today, or start today off, is, well then, how does this benefit new users? I'm not worried right now about people who are already using it, but how does this benefit new users, new creators, from both a first time using this, or maybe they've heard about it, but they're not too sure how they can get started. Main thing I think is it saves time. I find that one of the challenges talking with people new to creating apps is data storage. They've got to decide, where do you want to store this data? Do you want to store it in SharePoint? Do you know how to use SharePoint? A SQL database? Do you know how to use that? An Excel spreadsheet? Well, you can, but there are some things you need to consider. That's a lot to take in when you just want to create an app. You want to create a UI. This already has that built into it. So you can actually create the tables you use for your data storage and the user interface in one location. So it saves all that time. You get that consistent branding with the Fluent UI, with a modern Fluent UI. So it looks like a Teams app. from a user who's going to be creating this for the first time, the security is handled for them because they know it's created per team. These apps are scoped to be a per team app. So the security is handled through whoever has access to that team. That's your security for your members and owners. And even if you're creating an app from scratch, a blank app, it isn't exactly blank. It does come with a starting screen, so you can already start using your data and start using your app very easily. And we're going to get into how quick that is to actually do. And the new pre-built apps, I was quite taken back and impressed and how fully featured they are, and how Microsoft has created these to show what's possible, not only of creating apps in Teams, but even apps in the Power Platform. And it is a nice, humbling experience to see Microsoft creating it and knowing there's some things I can really take away from this myself. And they're fully featured for new users to see, oh, I can just start using this and actually just configure the app of how I want it by using the app myself. And for for existing users, they can extend it. And so it's very quick to start using these pre-built apps. And they aren't, I would say, tech demos or proof of concepts, which I have seen in the past for different situations. These are ones that you could start using straight away. And that's actually what we're going to do. I want to bring it across and start showing one of the apps right now and show how easy it is to actually get started with this. So if you want to start creating apps within Teams, it's actually one of the apps that you can add on your personal tabs or your personal apps. I've already got this pinned. For anyone who's never used this before, or anyone who hasn't had the app, you can actually go to your apps in here and just search for PowerApps. And this would allow you just to add it yourself. I can already open it because I've already added this. And that's how you'd access it. So if you want to create apps in Teams natively, this is where you would first add it. And when I go into here, I get a few options. I can create an app from scratch. We'll get into that soon. But I want to show how easy it is to create an app from one of these pre-built ones. And there are 3 that Microsoft have provided. Employee ideas, which is great for trying to vote on different user ideas that people come up with in a team. We have an inspection app, so if you need to inspect stores, assets, vehicles, any kinds of let's say apartments or houses, you can actually configure all the different inspections in here. And issue reporting as well, being able to create issues as well as managing the different kinds of questions and categories. So you can extend this. And to add this to a team, it's actually very easy. I will select one of them for employee ideas. I think that's the first one. I just need to select add to a team, and I'll come up and say, where do I want to add this to? And it's going to show me all my teams in here. And that's something I think is important to understand. Where this is at the moment is these apps are targeted on a per team basis. So if I add this employee ideas app to my team, there we go. It's just setting up now. It'll say, hey, do you want to set this up? It's just for my team here, and I'll save it. So what's going to happen is when I click save, this is going to set it up for me, and it'll say we're installing this, and it'll let me know when it's ready. The first time you do this, it's going to take about a minute, but after then it's ready to go. So what I might do is while that's installing, I'm actually going to find one that I prepared earlier. And this is one I've added to one of my other teams called Rob Lab. And this is my employee ideas in here. So all I've done is selected add to a team, and there's my app. This is a Power App. I could go into this and edit it myself if I wanted to change anything in here. But even within the app experience itself, I can already configure a lot of things in here. I can see all the campaigns for all these ideas that have been created. I can see what some of the weekly top voted ideas have been, or even just start to use, start to see some of the other existing campaigns that we've got going on. So it might be, hey, there's probably one with touchless solutions I think is a very appropriate one right now. So we're going to have a look at this campaign. And when I click on this, I can actually see details for what this campaign is about and one of the ideas in here. And that's the same for all of these other campaigns we've got going on. I can see all the ideas that my team has submitted, and you can even vote on them. So you can see which are the most popular ideas people want to see. If I want to, I could submit a new idea, and this could be done by anyone in this team. And it might be for a touchless solution. I might say, we might have, let's say, wireless, let's say wireless headphones. I don't know if that really works with a touchless solution because you've got to use them. This might help a little bit, but I'm not sure. And what you can do is you can add in an idea and say, how much of an impact will my idea have? Not too much, and it's low effort. So already in this template, I can start to use it straight away and even share the details in this team channel. So whenever I create a new idea, it's connected to the team. So my posts here show, oh, someone's commented already, or a post has already been made for me for a wireless headphone suggestion. And that's great. I can start to have conversations around this in my team. But what I can also do is I can even go one step further and I can add in a new campaign. And one that we might want to do is, and something that we've been doing in our company is around our fitness, around our active health. So this campaign I might want to have is my, let's say, health. We'll call it active health. We want to encourage an active lifestyle at Engage Squared. And this is a campaign that we might want to really focus on. And we're actually focusing on it since the start of October. And we might want to have this go until, let's say, January. And what you can do is when you create a campaign where you want to gather some ideas, you can even configure. So this is in the app straight away. As a new user, I could then start to configure the questions and say, how much will this active solution cost? And I can say, yep, it's some text in here to use it. And maybe we'll also say, how intensive is this active exercise? And I'll just say easy to very intense. So I can customize my campaigns, add a cover image here if there's one that's appropriate, not quite, but let's choose this one. And I can add in a new campaign and people can start to submit their own ideas. I've got my active health and I can have other people submit their ideas and I've got these questions in here. That's great. That's a solution I've already got in here. And that's where I'm trying to show how using these pre-created apps, you can still configure them for what you might need, because yours might be for certain campaigns, but they might be different campaigns to other people. And you even have the ability to have some settings in here for where you want messages to be posted, and if you want to have some restrictions in here. But let's go away from one of the pre-configured apps and look at, well, I want to create my own app. I want to create something from scratch. How long is that going to take me? Well, hopefully that's going to take us about 5 minutes. So how can I actually get started with creating my own app to track some information for other people to use? Well, what I can do is I'll just go into PowerApps here. I'll select this. I'll create an app. And all I need to know then is which team am I creating this app for? Well, I'm going to create a team for, and I should have our team just here, well, for the November meetup, and I'll click create. And straight away, this is going to open up the PowerApps Studio, but for teams. And this is going to give me a few bits of information in here. And I'm going to give my app a name. I'm going to call this projects. So my project tracking. I want to track how my projects are going. All I need to do is give it a name. And you'll notice once I have just given this a name, I've already got one screen in here, which is already set up for me. So it's blank, but I've actually got something I can use. And if I just want to start to add data, so I've got my screen in here, my canvas, where I could start adding different bits of data in here or adding text labels, but maybe I want to start creating a list for my projects or a table for my projects. How can I do that? Well, I don't need to go somewhere else to do it. I don't need to go to SharePoint. I don't need to have something created in SQL. I can actually just add data in here and create a new table straight away. And I'm going to call this Rob's projects. And I'll click create. And what happens is I can actually start to create my project information right now. So I might have the name as the project name, the project title. I might have another button here, or another, column for what's the project ID. I see this come up from clients quite a lot, is I want an automatic number generator. This will do it for you, where you can have a prefix. So I might call it E2, and then how many digits I want and what number I want to start with. So that's great. Project number. And I'll put a couple of other things in here as well. So we might have phase. And instead of text, I'm going to have this as a choice. And the choices could be, we'll have discovery, planning, build, and we'll just then say handover. That will be enough. So if I've been used to creating things, say in SharePoint, or even if this is the first time using it, it's quite easy to start creating what you want for your table and all the different bits of information you want. And maybe I'll have another one, which is just the start date. Let's just have the start date. And great, I have created my table. If I wanted to, I could start to enter information in here and say project 1 and give it a phase in discovery. I could just start to put information in here, but I want to start using this in my app. So what you even just see now is I created my first table, and this will connect it up for me automatically. That's great. So before you would have to say, oh no, I want to connect this up, or now I need to make sure I've got things all connected to the right properties. This does it for me. So it's done. And I can preview this right now, create a new record and say, this is going to be Office 365 Meetup project, the start date. And if you'll notice something, for anyone who's been using PowerApps before, this is using the Teams modern Fluent UI. So it's not using that other interface. And I like this calendar selector a lot more. And I can choose what phase I want. So it's using the same kind of drop down. And I'll just select to create it. Same if I want to delete anything, I could delete this old one. And the experience is already designed for me to say, are you sure you want to delete this record? So that's great. I've been able to create this app straight away. And if I add in anything like a button, it'll actually look like a Teams button. And I'll zoom in here because this is another difference you get. You get the option straight away. It looks like a team. It looks like a Teams button, and it will let you change the style of it straight away. And I know I have been personally spending a lot of time worrying about these sorts of user experience things where I need to worry about, what is the standard one going to be? What's the other kind of color going to be? This is taken care for me. And then if I want to share this, because I'm happy with Rob's projects, it's not too crazy here, but I'm going to share this out now.
Hey, Rob,
so I can
quick question.
Yeah.
this app, this designer we're looking at here, is this the same as the PowerApps maker on the separate app, or is this something different we're looking at here?
That's a good question. So it is the same with a couple of little differences. The main difference is up the top, the ribbon that you might be used to is gone. What you have is on the left-hand side, which is also in the PowerApps main Studio Maker, this is where you will interact with your tree view to see all the different things, all the different controls you've added to your app, adding new controls to your app for inputs, you know, different kinds of media, your data storage, and any media you upload as well. That's all handled on the left-hand navigation. So that's actually something different, as well as the publishing experience, which I'll just show here. So that is something to get used to if you want to create in here. Is I usually look at the top ribbon to insert all my different controls. That's all handled on the left-hand side now.
Right. So just to clarify, there a lot of the, I guess, controls and ways you design the app, it's basically the same, but things have moved around, or is there a feature difference between this one and the full maker?
Most of them are the same. So for the large part, they are the same, except for the controls you would usually have up the top or on the left-hand side. A couple of specific things that are changed is around some of the styling that's specific to teams. So like with the button in here, you'll notice that you actually have a button type on the right-hand side here. This isn't in the standard maker. This is unique for creating a button in Teams. So some of those parts are unique to this, but a lot of it is still the same.
Nice one.
Yeah. And if I want to publish my app, I'll click Publish to Teams. So this will save to PowerApps. And I'll get into some of the technical things in a moment after this, but we're going to go through creating and publishing the app. So what I'll do in here is I'll click Publish, and this lets me add it to the channel in the team. So that is one caveat at the moment is when you're creating a team or an app for a team, currently you can only create it for that single team. You can't yet publish it as a template for other teams to use. That ability is coming. It's just not available at the moment. It's in preview right now, so I think that's an okay caveat to have to say it's going to be per team. But what this lets you do is, if you have a team with multiple channels, you can actually say, all right, I want you to add this as a tab to this channel straight away. I only have one channel in my team, so there's not too much in there. I've only got the one I can add it to. And what this means is, after I've clicked Save and Close, this is going to save it for me, and I'll go back to my team. So this is another thing you'll notice as well is, when you select out of the app experience, it doesn't tell you, are you sure you want to leave? It just says, yep, we're going to save, we're going to leave right now. So that's something I'm still getting a little bit used to. But what you can see is on the tab up here, my project tracking, that's already published for me. And I can start to use this on my mobile. I can start to use this on my desktop right now. And it's the same, it is the same functionality, my great project. So that's how we can get started just as a beginner user for how we can use these apps. But what I want to do is I want to look at the part of what about some more experienced users? What can I do? I know a little bit about PowerApps. What can I get from this? And there's a few things you can get from using the capabilities of Project Oakdale of creating apps and teams. The first is you have the common data service. So especially for a lot of people in the Microsoft 365 and Office 365 world who have been creating Power Apps, a very common and popular data storage tool is SharePoint. SharePoint is great. I love the flexibility it provides. But one challenge you have is around being able to have relational databases and relations between these different SharePoint lists. That can be a challenge to set them up. But because you're using the common data service for your tables, you can have that's already available to you by having a relational database. So that's great for more experienced users. The other benefit you get as an experienced user is it saves time for you in creating branding that's going to be consistent to teams. And because you have these pre-built, fully featured apps, you can extend them for whatever you would like to. So you can either reuse some of these things in the apps or just change some of the things in the app itself and make it a completely different app. And this is something, when I've been looking around the community, I'm sure someone's been talking about it, but I haven't been seeing people talk more about this, is using one of these three apps and just changing a couple of the terms and turning it into another app completely. So an example I want to give quickly is one which is around managing issues. So there is a pre-built app that you can, just like with the Employee Ideas app, add it to your team to be able to manage issues. I'm just going to see if I've got that added here somewhere. Manage issues, I think I do somewhere. For issue reporting, I've got my issue reporting in here. Oh, I probably might want to just open up another tab to show it in the actual team itself. For issue reporting, so this is one of the templates you can use out of the box. I think it's great. This allows you, this actually gives you two apps. Oh, it needs to be completed with my tasks. When I click on this, this lets me manage a lot of issues in here. So you actually get two apps deployed with the template. One is letting you manage the different issues you have, and the other is letting people report issues. So these can be related to various assets that aren't working in the company, or maybe something's broken, maybe there's an IT issue, and it will assign tasks for you for different sorts of issues you might have. So I'm going to, I might actually go to my other one, but this will let you manage these issues and manage the issue reporting in here. So I can see my app here. If I go to my issue submission screen, here we go. So what this lets me do, and I'm just showing it in the editor at the moment, is I can report issues in here. So I could say, I'd like to report my issue. I'm going to select an issue type. This will let me say search for different issues or look through different kinds of categories. I've got a mobile phone, maybe the screen is cracked. I can assign it to someone, and I might assign it to this person, Andrew, here. And there might be some questions that are asked, and I'll submit this issue. So that's great. So when we submit this issue, there's a couple of things that will happen. There's an expected resolution date, and it'll actually create a task for someone in Planner for the person who's been assigned to that. And the really nice thing about this is with the issues, you actually have a whole section to manage where these issues are. And I'm just going to go to where I've put it in here. Manage issues is just around. Might actually go back into my app here, is for managing my issues. And I might actually open that one up in its own one. Looks like I've managed to lose that myself.
The good old demo gods. We didn't pray to them.
Oh, I didn't want to say those words because whenever someone says it, is managing issues. So this is one of the other apps that gets automatically added when you say add in the issue reporting. And this is where I think you can do so much more with it. So all I've shown right now is, hey, I'm using the app, and I want to show this first to say you're using this app, and here's what it's mainly used for. And here's one I changed a little bit for a completely different issue. So this is the other one that gets added, which is more of the management of issues. So you get two that get added. And this shows insights into all the issues that have been added, what the turnaround time has been. And you actually get the ability when you add this template to create your own categories and to create your own different kinds of questions for this. So I've got car, mobile phone, printer, workplace. I might say comms, and I can select an icon for it and save. That's fine. And what it does is I can add all these issue templates. Before, you would have to have a whole, build out this whole experience to be able to configure different issue templates and have all these different other issues. And I could say, hey, here's one in here. My headset isn't working. My headset isn't working. And we can set up our own maybe turnaround times for default. For maybe it's due within 1 day. That's pretty good. And we also want to we can have these tasks auto assigned to users. So we might want to add it to maybe Rob. He's going to be in charge of anything where headsets aren't working. And we might also want to ask them a couple questions like, what brand is your headphone, is your headset? And maybe a couple of other things. And for any additional help, we might say, you know what? We're going to set this up for people to say, Andrew is going to be your primary contact, and say he is the best at getting this sorted for escalations. So what I've been able to do is, in this other app, it's really configuring all the different things we're going to allow our users to use in the issues template. So when I'm using this app for my templates in here, for reporting an issue, this lets me select the different types in here. And it hasn't updated at the moment because I'm just in this one, but I can configure this app. Now, why have I shown this? This is great because we can add in issues. Well, what if it wasn't issues? What if you wanted to use it for something else? And I think this is where there's a great opportunity. And you say, I can tinker with this app a little bit. What about instead of issues, let's just call them. If I click around in here, I'm not able to create an app from scratch. Instead of report an issue, how about we just have the text create work order. What if we use this app to handle different requests in our business for demand management? Maybe I need someone to help create designs for an app, or maybe I need someone to help with some training. Well, you've already got the processes in place and all the different things in place with this template for here's what's in progress, here's what's been completed, here's how we're tracking with all these tasks and auto assigning things. But instead of having them for issues, just rename them to something else, like a work order, whatever might make sense to you, a ticket, a service request, a resource, whatever it might be. If you create a variable to just change it everywhere, that makes it easier. We won't get into that, but that's all you need to do, is changing the text changes the whole context of what we're using. So here's one I actually prepared earlier, where all I did was I just changed it to work order requests. It's still the same app, and all I did was I said, yep, request work order. The team's completed these work orders. I just changed the name everywhere. And then what I did was, you're able to configure just in the app itself without needing to use the editor, but just in the other, manage issues or manage work orders, select a work order type. And just when I showed how you create those templates for different issues, I've done this for different work order types and said, you know what? I need an app mockup. That would be great, please. And I've already set Andrew Jolly's going to be able to do this for me. And I'll say description. Oh, I'm not going to put anything in there. How many screens do I need? 4, please. App is for work order management. And I can submit that. And the rest of the app is handling it, right? So the task management in Plan is already there. And we've already got some service level agreements for when the due date is going to be. So that's where you can really just change a couple things, make it a completely different app. Don't need to create it from scratch. And I feel that's where a big opportunity is, that people haven't been talking much about it. And that's what I'm excited to start using it for, is using it for this. So from a demo perspective, that's where I wanted to leave it, but I wanted to just quickly cover off a couple of things of in some slides, just to show, here are some considerations for, say, maybe some people who are more technically oriented, and then just a couple of bits of advice of when should you use this. Some tech considerations is, if you create an app within Teams, within using Project Oakdale, this umbrella, the app is made to be used within Teams. So you wouldn't be able to use it outside of Teams. So that's an important consideration. One other thing is, each team is siloed at the moment. So that means whenever you create apps for a team, that app and its data is going to be unique to that team. You can always access that data from another app if you want to, but you would have to, connect it up to connect to that other team. So that means each time you create your first app for the team in the Power Platform, it creates its own environment.
Obvious question here, Rob.
Yep.
Is the Power Platform administrator going to go on the rampage when he or she sees all these other environments spinning up in their perfectly governed ecosystem, or are they all sort of hidden away?
They are viewable in the, so they're not viewable in the main selector dropdown, but they are viewable in the admin center. So they might start to think, oh, what's all this going on? I think that's a bit of an understanding for admins to know, oh, when it's connected to a team. If you go and select one of the environments, it actually does say this is for a team. So they know, oh, that's what it's for. But I think that's a bit of a learning that admins will need to know. Similar to when site collections in SharePoint get created, when you might create something else in Office 365. It's a good point though.
Back in the day when the directory services administrator was finding groups like Julie's 30th birthday and things like that.
Yeah,
5 groups became a thing. Yeah,
I think we're going to start to see a bit of that as well. And a few things is it will support up to 500 teams for being able to create these different environments for these apps at the moment. So this might increase, but that's what the limit is at the moment. I haven't tried getting to that limit, but that's what we have. For a data perspective, you can have up to 1 million records per environment. So there's actually a lot of data that you can store. And that's stored in the common data service. If you want to store more, you can upgrade it to a plan within PowerApps for the full common data service experience if you need to have larger storage. Same with the database storage itself. If you're storing files and media, you get 2 GB per team per environment. So per team, you'll get 2 GB for that storage. That isn't your SharePoint storage. This is its own separate thing. For better or worse, actually, I think for better, the security is handled through team owners and members. So that means that's how you know who can access it, whoever has access to the team. And one other part for the tech considerations is when the team is deleted, the environment as well is deleted. So that's a very important thing right now to consider with these apps, is around if that team gets deleted, so does the app apps that were created with the team. And there's one other catch, one other big catch that I already talked about before, but what's the biggest catch? I feel right now is, yes, you can't share apps or data outside of a team yet, but that's coming soon. So you can already do that if you create an app outside of the Teams experience and add it to Teams. But if you're creating these apps directly in Teams, coming soon, there is the ability to say, yep, I'm creating this app and I'm going to create it as a template for all people to use as their own templates, just like how Microsoft is doing it with those pre-built apps that they have. So it's not there yet. I'm not sure when, maybe when it gets out of preview. And then just to quickly round off, a couple slides is just on, well, when should you create in Teams and when should you use a standalone app? There's a lot of different things that you could consider. I would really boil it down to just some simple ones, and not to make it too complex. I would say use it in Teams when, if you're just going to use it for one team, create in Teams. It's very quick just to create it there, to create it for your team straight away. You've got your table stored for you, your team security is all handled for you, and it looks like a Teams app. That's going to make it easier for you to manage and to be able to create it. But I would consider creating that standalone Power App when you want to use it outside of Teams. So if you want to use it just in the PowerApps mobile app for your tablets and your mobile devices, but not have people go through Teams, or you want people to use it just in their browsers and a full screen experience outside of Teams, or you want to have some more deployment options to move it across different environments and different tenants, that's great. And also if you want to share it across multiple teams, that's the best way to do it at the moment. And that's what I've been using as my kind of main decision tree or decision matrix. But I also want to just throw one final curveball and say, you could even just use lists. I love the Power Platform, but with the advancements in lists and even the integration of using lists, so Microsoft lists and SharePoint lists, but even the integration they've got now in Teams, it's very simple to get started. You can create them directly in Teams. There's conversations associated to them. There are out-of-the-box views. The calendar one I saw came to our tenant yesterday, and there are some tile views out of the box you can use. And some very easy ways to change the format itself, and you can still use the Power Platform on top of that. So you could still create flows for any kind of automation you need. You can create specific Power Apps for certain experiences and have the list be for data management and have Power BI for your data visualization. So that's something I want to hit home is keep things simple. Know that if you have been using lists, Microsoft lists, SharePoint lists before, they're just as viable to use as a data storage in there if you just want to use it for a team. But that's everything I wanted to talk about today. So I wanted to thank everyone for your time and actually throw it over to if there are any questions from the audience.
There are a few coming through, but I think we've done a good job at responding to them.
There was one. There was one that
yeah.
stumped me, which was the GA.
Yeah,
any timelines on when it goes GA, given that it's currently in preview?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess if you don't know either, I don't think they've made any commitments.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of time of people testing and giving feedback, and then coming up with a more concrete deadline. I actually think the name is going to be a big thing where it won't, where it needs its proper name before they release it as well. Oh, and I just saw someone, Matt B, just posted as well. Project Oakdale over list, creating Power Virtual Agents. Yes, so at the start of the chat, that's one of the things that we didn't get to talk about, but just reference. That is a great benefit where your licensing is included to create a Power Virtual Agent directly in Teams. And I think that shouldn't be understated, even though we didn't focus on that today.
I tell you what, listening to Project Oakdale has made me very excited about the future of the Power Platform. And it seems as though without getting, because we always run into that conversation with customers around, oh, we can do this, but you need the Power Platform license and into this whole license discussion that can be quite challenging. But it seems with this, it's going to enable a lot more opportunities for people to start leveraging some of the advanced features of the Power Platform.
I think premium connectors will still sting you though.
They
always
will
do
be.
those buggers.
Having that premium data storage is pretty on its own by having the common data service. I think that's pretty impressive. But yeah, those premium connectors. Oof.
I guess thanks for the session, Rob. It's been very enlightening for myself. That does it for us here at the Microsoft 365 Meetup for this year. Stay safe, happy holidays, and everyone do what you do best.